psychic tools. So the most important things, I'm going to name just a few of these items, but the most important things, 5 items I'll cover real quick, when it comes to psychic tools. First, God first. Always remember God first. Ask the Holy Spirit to be involved. Ask for the Holy Spirit for guidance and for help in how to word your question if you're trying to get a question answered, or choosing a psychic or being a psychic. Ask for the Holy Spirit's help. Ask for the Divine Mother's help. Ask for God's help. Ask for Jesus's help. And your angels, or whatever you will do, call on the divine as best you can. And even A Course in Miracles mentions something along that line, which is saying, you know, it's almost, he says, it is in fact more dangerous for you to not use things you believe in. Like if you believe aspirin fixes a headache, he says, take the aspirin. You're going to be in more trouble if you don't, knowing that you believe in him. But he's also talking about your clients. If you have a client come to you and suddenly you read that spirit can heal by the commanding word or by just a thought, but you or even your client believes in body work, you're being told by Christ to do the body work, believe it or not. Do it, because that's what they connect with, and that's called bridging. Meet people at the level they're at. The second rule or tool for psychic readings, psychic development and psychic readings, you are the magic, not the tool. So whether you use a pendulum or whether you use cards or, you know, psychometry or whatever it is, astrology, remember you're the magic. The person who's supposed to be holding the presence of God and asking for guidance, that's the person that's anchoring the magic, the spirit. You know, I mean magic in the highest sense. The meaning the beauty, the wonder, the, you know, the love, the healing, the miracle consciousness. You're the magic, not the tools. Third, tools only offer guidelines. The tools, you know, you don't take the tools and say it's fate. I have to, just like I said in other talks. You don't swing a pendulum and say the pendulum tells me I have to marry someone. They're only guidelines. Astrology, you know, you read in a magazine, here's my reading for this month or whatever. It's a guideline. Don't let things become a heavy burden in any sense. Fourth one is using discretion. Now, use discretion based on the accuracy of whatever is giving you the reading, like if it's a psychic or a tool you've used before. Check into the accuracy of that tool. That's important. This is what Jesus was saying about, by the fruits you shall know something. That's how he's saying how to measure things. And Buddha says the same thing. Buddha's saying, test things and see how they work. If they work, why question it? Then go for it. It's fine. But, you know, the accuracy, but also, besides the accuracy, check into the practicalness of it. You know, if guidance is telling you to stand on your head 24 hours a day, it's not practical. If it's telling you to do whatever it is, make sure it's practical. Make sure it makes sense. And again, Jesus, Buddha, Michael Mirdad, in your own head probably knows that too. The wisdom in all of us knows that and has taught that over the years. It should be accurate and applicable. And the last one is, let me just share just quick on tools, types of tools. We know that there's, I think astrology is great. Maybe not all astrologers, but I think most are, you know, pretty good. They have something to offer. Astrology is pretty good. Numerology, pretty good. You can count on that, okay? There aren't a lot of people doing numerology anymore, but it is an amazing thing, and it's great to add as an adjunct to anything else you're using as a tool. So I would consider that. Tarot cards, tarot readers, there's a variety, and some have been doing it for a few weeks, you know, so you might want somebody with more experience. But, oh my God, there's Celtic cards, medicine cards, classic tarot, Arthurian tarot, just tons and tons, Renaissance tarot, tons and tons of types of cards or readings with cards. And when people know their stuff, man, it is quite shockingly accurate. There's tea leaves, you know, tea leaf readings, all kinds of things that people can use. I Ching is just shockingly accurate, but deep and multi-layered. Not easy to learn nor teach or whatever, but those who know how to do it, man, the I Ching, ancient Chinese divination tool, fantastic. It's part of the Taoist tradition. But some of you ask about pendulums. So let me just say this. The pendulums are the most challenging. They're the least accurate. But the problem is, see, when you're getting a reading and you hold a pendulum, it's the same as water witching, as it's called. When you hold a dowsing rod and you douse for water, or grid lines, meridian lines, it's just very similar, the pendulum. You are the magic. So people go, wow, my pendulum's telling me something. No. When you're holding an object, just like muscle testing, when you hold your arm, you're holding it out away from you. See that? You're holding it away from you. Pendulum, it's held away from you. The leash of your dog is held away from you, and yet dog whisperer or whisperers say that the animal can pick up your vibes, translated, through the leash. I know that may sound a little weird and mystical to some, but it's true. Your vibrations, they transfer out. When you're holding an object like your hand, it's hard to control the hand because it's held away from you. So when you're muscle testing things, and muscle testing is also sometimes a little bit inaccurate because it's much like a pendulum. The pendulum or a dowsing rod or your arm is held away from you. And people testing go, see, the arm is saying, the body is saying we should eat this food or not that food or whatever. It can be accurate, but there's a problem. It's reflecting so much of what's happening inside the person, because that's what's the magic, is you. So if you muscle test my arm, you're muscle testing what I already believe. So too often, the muscle tests, the pendulums, they're revealing what our head already wants to say. It's not as objective as some of the other sources of read, like astrology or whatever, which is quite objective even if it doesn't seem like it is. It's far more of a science than people understand. So dowsing is great, but a person has to be a master at it to really count on the information coming through. God, I can't tell you the number of people that have told me, oh yeah, doing dowsing, I found out, because there's charts they use, and I'm not putting it down completely. When you're a master at it, fine, but shy of a master at it, be really wary of that and careful, because I've had, the most inaccurate readings I've seen people do and receive using pendulums. They'll say, how many times was I, on Earth? Oh, look, 53,000 times. It pointed at that number on a chart. How arbitrary can you get, How many times have I known this one person in my life? 63, great. Am I supposed to marry them? Yes. A Ouija board is actually very similar to that too. It picks up the vibes and then your hands move it. You think that the object is moving, and it's actually consciousness transmitted downhill to the end of a thing. Pendulum, Ouija board, object, and all that. And incidentally, Ouija boards are notorious, and they're known amongst people that do house cleansings and exorcisms and so on. Ouija boards are known as the #1 source of demonic activity in homes and with people. That happens usually when there's children, adolescents, and young ones involved in the household, unless the place was already haunted. That's not counting that. But those objects are not to mess with, please. They can get you into a lot of danger. So if you have them, get rid of them. If you've known people that have had them that you could trust your word, please encourage them to get rid of them. When you're calling in spirits, it's not usually the higher ones that hang around and play board games with lonely children that are, looking for something to help them or complete them. Those are not usually the helping angelic beings, unfortunately. There's a lot of mischievous beings that know how to prey upon people's mischievous or lacking minds or needy minds or broken hearts and so on. So different tools are out there. Be careful with pendulums. They're not as accurate as some other tools. And I've explained, hopefully without, going into more detail, which I'd love to do, but can't on time. But all those objects where something is held at the end of your body, the hand being tested on a muscle test, pendulums, it's not the object. You already are answering it. And too often what I want to be said is going to come out to the end of that object, because, it's almost like the same as a lie detector. It's sensing your nervous system, and it's transmitted down to that little needle on the paper, on the graph. So that's what's happening. See, and that sensitive equipment picks it up, and the same thing happens. Even when you hold your hand out and ask a question like, do I like this color? And it doesn't look like my arm's moving, but if you put a pencil at my fingertip and held it to a piece of paper, you would see little movements that you can't even see happening when your hand is being held still. It picks up those sensitive things, just like people, just like animals, you know, like I said, in dog whispering. People sense those things. Well, your dowsing rod, they pick up those things. They sense what you're sensing. It's not doing something. It's just reflecting that you're already knowing, because you're that psychic. Here's water. Here's gold. Here's whatever you're, you know, searching for or dowsing for. So I guess it's a lot of rules for different kinds of discernment in our lives is what we're covering today. I pray this makes a big difference in your life, you know, and in such an applicable way that it can make a difference in what you're doing and how you're doing it, what kind of readings, what kind of people, what kind of things to get rid of in your life, and so on. So use it as you may, and I think you'll find it make a big difference, all right? And these are also questions a lot of you have been asking, so thanks for asking.